Hello, and welcome back. I am so glad you are here today. Whether you are walking, resting, cooking, or simply sitting quietly somewhere, welcome. You are listening to slow, clear British English. And today's story is one of the most emotional I have ever told. It is called Her Words Broke Me. Before we begin, I want to ask you something. Has anyone ever said something to you that stayed with you for years? Not something kind. Something painful. Something you could not forget, no matter how hard you tried. Words are strange things. They leave no bruise. No scar that anyone can see. But sometimes, they go so deep inside a person that they change everything. This is a story about those kinds of words, and about one young woman who had to decide what to do with them. Her name was Amara. She was 22 years old. She had grown up in Lagos, Nigeria, in a small but warm home filled with books and laughter. Her mother was a school teacher. Her father repaired radios. Neither of them had much money. But both of them believed in one thing completely. Education could change a life. From the age of 7, Amara read everything she could find. English novels, old magazines, dictionaries she borrowed from the school library. She fell in love with the English language. The sounds, the rhythm. The way a single sentence could make you feel something deep in your chest. You have a gift, her mother told her once, watching her read by lamplight. Words understand you, Amara. And one day, you will understand them too. When Amara was 21, something extraordinary happened. She received a letter. A scholarship. A full scholarship to study English literature at a university in Britain. In Birmingham. She read the letter 3 times. Then she sat very still for a long moment. Then she screamed with joy. So loudly that her neighbor knocked on the wall. 3 months later, Amara arrived in England. It was October. Grey sky. Cold wind. Rain that felt personal, somehow as if it had chosen her specifically. She wore a yellow raincoat. She carried 2 suitcases and a bag full of books. And she was more frightened than she had ever been in her life. The university was large and old. Stone buildings. Tall windows. Corridors that echoed with footsteps and quiet conversations. Everyone seemed to know exactly where they were going. Amara did not. But she told herself, "You belong here. You worked for this. You are ready." The first weeks were difficult. Not because the work was too hard, but because Amara felt invisible. In seminars, she listened carefully. She took long, detailed notes. She always prepared more than anyone else. But when she raised her hand to speak, something stopped her. A quiet fear. A voice inside that whispered, "What if they don't understand you? What if your English is not good enough? What if they laugh?" So she stayed quiet. And the weeks passed. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon in November. The seminar room was small and warm. 8 students sat around an oval table. At the front stood their professor. His name was Dr. Marshall. He was a tall man with silver hair and sharp, impatient eyes. He was considered one of the best in the department. He was also known for being brutally honest. That afternoon, he asked each student to read aloud a paragraph from their essay. One by one, they read. Some students were nervous. Some were confident. Amara gripped her paper tightly under the table. When her name was called, she took a slow breath. And she began to read. She had worked on that essay for 11 days. She had rewritten it 4 times. She had chosen every word with great care. She read clearly, slowly, with feeling. When she finished, the room was quiet. She looked up. Dr. Marshall was looking at her. Not unkindly, but not warmly either. He was simply studying her. Then he spoke. And what he said broke something inside her. "Miss Amara," he said, in a calm, flat voice. "Your essay shows effort. I can see that you have tried very hard. But I want to be honest with you." He paused. "Your English is not the English of this room. It is correct, yes. But it is foreign. The rhythms are wrong. The instincts are wrong. To write English literature at this level, you need to feel the language from the inside. And I am not sure that is something that can be learned. Some people simply do not have it." Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Amara felt the heat rise into her face. She looked down at her paper. Her hands were completely still. He moved on to the next student, as if nothing had happened. That evening, Amara sat alone in her small dormitory room. The rain hit the window. The radiator clicked quietly in the corner. She did not read. She did not eat. She simply sat a day and replayed his words over and over. Your English is not the English of this room. Some people simply do not have it. She thought about her mother, about the lamplight, about all the years of reading and dreaming and working. And she thought, what if he is right? What if I do not belong here? What if I never did? For 2 weeks, she barely spoke in class. She submitted her essays on time. But the joy had gone out of the words. They felt like stones now. Heavy and grey. Not like music anymore. One evening, a girl from her course knocked on her door. Her name was Sophie. Small and cheerful, with paint always somewhere on her jacket. "We're going for tea," Sophie said. "Come." "I'm fine here," Amara said. "No, you're not," Sophie said simply. "Come." They sat in a small cafe near the library. Amara wrapped her hands around a warm mug and stared at the table. Slowly, she told Sophie what had happened. What Dr. Marshall had said. How it had felt. Sophie listened carefully. She didn't interrupt. She didn't rush to make Amara feel better. She just listened. When Amara finished, Sophie was quiet for a moment. Then she said something unexpected. "Do you know what I heard when you read that day?" Amara looked up. "I heard someone who actually cares about what the words mean. Not just how they sound. Not just how they look on the page. But what they actually mean. That's rarer than you think." Amara didn't know what to say. "Marshall's not wrong that your English is different," Sophie continued. "But different isn't wrong, Amara. It's just different. And maybe the question is whether you're going to let one man's opinion decide who you are." That night, something shifted. Not a big shift. Not a sudden burst of confidence. Just a small, quiet decision. A decision to stay. She picked up her pen. She opened a new notebook. And she began to write. Not for Dr. Marshall. Not for the seminar room. Just for herself. She wrote about Lagos. About the smell of rain on hot concrete. About her father's hands, careful and patient, fixing broken things. About her mother reading to her by lamplight, her voice rising and falling like music. She wrote about what English had meant to her before anyone told her it was wrong. The weeks that followed were not easy. But something had changed. Amara started speaking in seminars. Quietly at first. Then more. Her questions were different from the others. She saw things in the texts that her classmates had not noticed. Connections between stories. Echoes across cultures. Ways that literature moved across borders and still meant the same things. Slowly, some of the other professors began to notice her. One morning, a professor named Dr. Osei, a small, serious woman from Ghana, stopped Amara after class. "Your last essay," she said. "It was extraordinary. You have a perspective that this department needs. Do not let anyone take that from you." Amara thought about Dr. Marshall's words. Then she thought about her mother's words. Words understand you, Amara. And she chose which ones to carry. She graduated 3 years later. With first-class honors. She stayed in Britain. She trained as a teacher. She went back to school, not as a student this time. As a teacher herself. She taught English to refugees, to immigrants, to adults who had been told in one language or another that they did not belong. She understood them. And they understood her. She was 34 when she received an invitation. Her old university wanted her to come back. To give a talk. To the current students. She stood in a seminar room. Not the same one as before. But similar. Same stone walls. Same tall windows. Same grey October sky outside. She looked at the students around the table. Young faces. Nervous faces. Hopeful faces. And she told them about a Tuesday afternoon in November. About a paper gripped tightly under a table. About words that broke something. And about a small cafe. And a girl with paint on her jacket. And a decision to stay. After the talk, a woman approached her. Older now. Grey-haired. But Amara recognized her immediately. It was Dr. Marshall's assistant. A quiet woman named Margaret who had worked in the department for 30 years. "I was there that day," Margaret said softly. "I remember you." Amara nodded slowly. "He was hard on you," Margaret continued. "He was hard on a lot of students. But I want you to know something." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. Old and slightly yellowed at the edges. After that seminar, Dr. Marshall wrote a letter. He asked me to send it to the scholarship committee. He recommended them to increase your funding for the following year. He said. She opened the letter carefully. And read. "Miss Amara has a quality I rarely see in a student. She does not just read English. She feels it. She will, I believe, do something extraordinary with it. Please support her." Amara stood very still. She didn't understand. The man who had told her she didn't belong had also quietly fought for her to stay. She thought about that for a long time. She is still thinking about it now. Because perhaps that is the complicated truth about words. They do not always mean what they appear to mean. And the people who are hardest on us are not always the people who believe in us the least. But here is what Amara knows now. What she teaches her own students. Every single week. The words that break you do not get to define you. Only you decide what to do with them. You can carry them like stones. Or you can put them down and walk forward. The English language belongs to everyone who loves it, not just to the people born inside it. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope that story stayed with you. I hope it gave you something. Before you go, 2 questions to think about. Has anyone ever said something to you that you turned into strength? And do you believe that words can break us and also rebuild us? If this story helped your English today and your confidence too, please subscribe. Every Thursday, I bring you a new slow English story, just like this one. Your next story is already waiting for you. Until next time, take care of yourself. Keep reading. Keep listening. And as we say in Britain, cheers, and speak soon.